I believe that we are live. Welcome to our workshop, Breakthrough from Stuck to Success, where as you conquer your life, your emotions, you will conquer your life. My name is Donnie Alvarenga, and I'm honored to be one of the hosts of this workshop. There is a team of coaches that are behind the scenes with this, and we want to welcome you from wherever it is that you are coming from. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here so that we could get this party, oops, wrong one, started. Sorry, guys, technology. Here we go. Got it. All righty. So today we are talking about the anatomy of being stuck. We want to go from, obviously, stuck to success. What is it that keeps us stuck? Okay. Now, as you register, if you're with us today, I'm assuming that you have registered. If you are watching online, we want to welcome you as well. And we want to invite you to register. When you register, you will receive a workbook that you can actually follow along as we're going through the workshop. You'll also have access to a daily group coaching session immediately following our presentation. You will receive a free ebook that talks a little bit about one of the tools that we're going to be talking about this week. And then you also will have a complimentary clarity call with your coach, the person that invited you, and you'll also have lifetime access to the recordings. You can register. The link is at bit.ly/success-breakthrough-registration. So ultimately it's bit.ly success breakthrough registration. Okay. So, where's the thing? So I would love for you to type into the chat, what does it feel like to be stuck for you? Okay. This workshop is for anyone feeling stuck in any area of life, whether it's in your personal physical health, in relationships, in your career, any area of your life. This workshop will provide you the tools to break through and to start making progress. Okay. But I've heard from lots of people that feeling stuck feels like they're swimming in molasses, they're drowning in quicksand, spinning my wheels, feeling overwhelmed, feeling hopeless. I would love to see in the chat, what are some of the words that describe what it feels like for you to feel stuck? Why are we moving backwards? So, as I mentioned, any of these areas are fair game for being stuck. And any of these areas are fair game for breakthrough this week. Now, I know what it's like to feel stuck. For me, feeling stuck is knowing what to do and not doing what I know. Okay. For me here, when you see this picture on the left, that was me after I had ran a weight management program for kids. And I delivered twins and I went on to gain a lot of weight. And I knew what to do, but I wasn't doing what I knew. And with that came a lot of guilt, and a lot of shame. And even as a coach, knowing what I know and all the things, the guilt and shame is something that I contend with. And that's one of the reasons why I'm a coach, is because I need to remember all of these things. Okay. So when I say that I understand, I'm saying I understand. But the beauty of this program is that over the past 12 years, because of my journey, because of having been stuck, I can now understand what's going on behind the scenes, and I can help people and I can help myself. Okay. And so I understand what it feels like to be stuck. Now, today, we're talking about the anatomy of being stuck. Tomorrow, we're going to be talking about 3 proven steps to take back control. The next day, we're going to be talking about how to make the win inevitable. And then next Monday, we're going to be talking about simple tools that can help you break through. Okay. So if you don't take anything else away from our time here this week together, it's that you do not have to stay stuck. Okay. No matter how you feel about it, the truth is you do not have to stay stuck. And what we want to do this week is to equip you with not just the knowledge, because as you guys are going to notice, the knowledge doesn't do us very much good, but the skills that you need to break through. Okay. Now, feeling stuck is the perceived inability to create an outcome you desire. And the key word here I want you guys to notice is perceived, okay? Perception can be seen as reality, okay? But it is not necessarily reality. So even if you feel like there's just no way, I want you to remember that perception is just a perception. And remember, you don't have to stay there. Today, hopefully, we're going to understand why you feel that way. And that's going to hopefully equip you to see that you don't have to stay there. Okay. So what is the anatomy of being stuck? So our rational thinking brain decides it wants something. Okay. Wants to lose 10 pounds, wants to start a business, wants to go back to school, wants to change jobs, wants to get out of a relationship, wants to get into a relationship, whatever it is. Our rational brain says, this is what I want. Okay. And the rational thinking brain says, okay, to get what I want, this is the map. Okay. Now, to get from here to there, we have to take action. But this is where we get stuck. There's a disconnect between the plan and what actually gets stuck. And so because there's that disconnect, the action is not done and the target is missed. And when you miss the target, especially if it happens more than once, your mind is a meaning-making machine and it starts telling you stories. It gives meaning to why you have not achieved the thing, is because you can't, because it's not possible, because, okay? And so once you start entertaining and wrapping your brain and then embracing the belief that achieving your goal is not possible, that is a very dangerous place to be. That's when we are stuck. Okay. Now, as I mentioned, it's the rational thinking brain that comes up with these goals. And it's the disconnect between the plan and the action that creates the stuckness. But what is it that creates that gap? What is it that controls what we do? Okay. Now, we think that, or we expect that if I know what to do, then I should do what I know. Okay. We think, okay, I know the more knowledge I have, the more I will do, and therefore the more results I have. But that is categorically false. If you happen to know what to do, if you have ever done something and known that you shouldn't have done that, okay, or not done something that you knew you should have done, type a me into the chat, okay? Because as I talk to human beings all the time, I hear it over and over, right? I know what to do. I just need to do what I know. What is it that's controlling what we do? It is not the knowledge. That's part of the challenge, okay? What moves us toward our goal is our action, but what controls our action is not always our logical thinking brain, okay? So what is it that controls what we do? First of all, programming, okay? So just automated behaviors that you do without thinking, that's one of the things that controls what you do. It's just on autopilot, okay? Then what else controls what you do is your readiness to make the change. And then there's the last one, which is the emotions. And I'm going to touch briefly on the programming and readiness change, but my theory, my belief system, my hypothesis is that emotions drive the bus all the time, because emotions will help you be ready to change, and emotions are what create automatic behaviors. So if we're able to learn how to manage or control or navigate those emotions, remember the tagline is conquer your emotions, conquer your life, right? But understanding that it's not the knowledge, okay? When you understand that knowing what to do never translates into doing what you know, then it will hopefully help you let go of a lot of shame and a lot of guilt, which is very toxic and keeps us stuck, okay? So 40 to 90% of what we do each day is a conditioned response. So the reason I have this plane on here is because there's this story of a gentleman that was a pilot, and there was like a bring your child to work day. And so he brought his daughter, and he was flying the plane. And as he was going to land, he asked the stewardess to bring his daughter into the cockpit because he was going to show her landing the plane. Well, as soon as she comes in, all of a sudden these alarms start coming off, and he's like ready to land the plane. He's like, buckle in, and he's trying to figure out what's going on. And the autopilot was telling him that it was not safe to land. It kept kind of blaring and alarming, terrain ahead, lift off, right? And he was a very experienced pilot, and he was looking at what was going around he could see where he was going to land. There was nothing in their way. And he had to, after evaluating and checking and double checking, he's like, there's a glitch with the autopilot. So he turned the autopilot off and landed the plane manually. Now, had he not been experienced, those alarms would have made him have to take off and figure out how to continue having gas and where he's going to land and all of these things, right? And what happens with us very often with our conditioned responses is that we have these alarms that go off. And if we're not experienced in identifying and looking around and being able to evaluate the situation more, what's the word I'm looking for? Objectively, okay, we'll just continue doing what we've always done on autopilot. And what we do on autopilot does not always serve us, okay? A lot of times it actually doesn't, because we are where we are because of our automated behaviors. And with so many of them being automated, then the automated behaviors are not moving us towards where we want to go, okay? So one of the things we're going to be talking about is how do we evaluate what's going on, and how do we take back the control so that we can land the plane on manually, right? Now, another thing that controls what we do is our readiness to change, okay? Because as I mentioned, it requires behavior, and knowing what to do doesn't always translate into action, because you might be in one of these 6 stages of change. And these 6 stages of change, they don't happen necessarily sequentially. We sometimes move back and forth between them. Okay. But knowing where you are can help you know how to move to the next stage. And breakthrough is not just achieving your goal. Breakthrough is actually moving from where you are and taking one step forward, right? So it's none of these stages is wrong, but becoming aware of where you are helps you once again let go of any guilt and shame. And then by working with somebody that can help you move from one stage to the next, you can break through. So the 6 stages of change is pre-contemplation, where you're not quite sure if you're ready to think about making the change. Contemplation, you're thinking about it, but you're kind of weighing the pros and cons a little bit, like what is the cost and what is the benefit? Cost can be, what if it fails, right? Have you ever not tried something because you were afraid it was going to fail? And what ends up happening is that when we don't try, we just guarantee that it's going to fail because you don't make progress because you stay stuck, right? So in that contemplation phase, we're weighing the cost versus the value. What is it worth to me, right? And then in preparation is, okay, I'm ready to do this. And then action is when you actually move into action. So notice there's actually, 4 stages between the moment you're not even quite sure if you're wanting to think about this to actually doing the thing. And yet we self-flagellate ourselves, right? We give ourselves a guilt trip because, man, I know what to do. Why am I not doing it? Well, that's maybe because you're not ready for it yet. Okay. And so once again, what I hope that today does for you is that number 1, you know that you don't have to stay stuck. And the first thing that we have to do to embrace that truth is to let go of any guilt or shame surrounding where we are. Okay. Any guilt and shame regarding where we think we should be. Okay. Letting go of that should. Okay. Now, when we are in that pre-contemplation and contemplation phase, and we're like, man, I know what to do. Knowing what to do does not mean we know how to do it. Okay. So knowing I should not have the ice cream does not mean I know how to pass on the ice cream when I'm stressed. Remember, I mentioned that emotions often drive the bus, right? We're going to talk a little bit more about that in a minute, but that we think we know what, but do we know how? Okay. when we get to a point, if we have tried something over and over and over, if we're in that space where we're like, I don't know if it's possible, it's very possible that we're in a space of being demoralized. Okay. And if that happens, the antidote to that is hope. The antidote to that is seeing other people that have done it. And this week, you're going to see other people that have probably achieved or are moving towards what you want, to remind you, you don't have to stay there. Okay. And then defensiveness. A lot of times we defend why we're stuck. We have so many good reasons for why we're stuck. And that defensiveness, the don't know how, the demoralized, or the defensiveness are the 3 Ds that delay breakthrough. And so if you notice that any of these 3 apply to you, I invite you to connect with the person that invited you today to talk a little bit about how we can overcome this barrier to breakthrough. Okay. Now, we talked about the fact that what controls us is the automated behaviors, and then also our readiness to change. But we actually have 2 control centers. Okay. I absolutely love the movie Inside Out. It kind of pictures this little girl's Grand Central Station inside of her head, where she's got all these different emotions that are driving everything she does. And there's joy, and there's sadness, and there's anger. And I absolutely love that movie because it's such a beautiful depiction of how our emotions are the ones that control what we do. And yet we think that it's our logic, when actually 90% of what we do is driven by emotions. There's this cute scene, and I may have to pull it up for tomorrow for us to watch it, but there's this cute scene where the mom and dad are talking to each other, and we get a behind the scenes look at the command center in their heads as they're talking to each other, and how anger kicks in, and all of a sudden they blow their top and they're yelling, right? And so when we understand that it's the emotions, it's not the logic that said, this is the result I want, then once again, we can let go of guilt and shame. And understanding today, we're simply understanding what controls us so that we can then tomorrow talk about how we can take back power. Okay. Just because our emotions control what we do does not mean that we need to let our emotions control what we do. Okay. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that tomorrow. So, the 3 control centers that we have, there's the automated that we talked about, there's the emotional, and there's the rational. And 90% of what we do is not in the rational or the logical space, right? And so don't beat yourself up if you know what to do and you have not done it. Okay. All of this stuff that we're talking about, whether it's the readiness to change, whether it's the automated behaviors, whether it's the emotions, all of that usually happens below the surface of our awareness. So when you look at this picture, right, if you were taking a picture from the beach, all you would see would be the beautiful trees, the beautiful sky, the beautiful color of the ocean, and not seeing this beautiful world that lies right below the surface. And that the lack of awareness oftentimes is what keeps us stuck. And what we want to do is become aware of what's going on down there. Okay. Now, one thing that a trap that we sometimes fall into in knowing what to do is that, for example, I use the ice cream example just because ice cream happens to be my drug of choice, right? And so if I am in a mood for ice cream, if I keep telling myself, I can't have it, I can't have it, I can't have it. So type a 2 into the chat if you've ever told yourself that. Maybe it's you're trying to save money for something and you want to buy something. You're like, no, I can't buy it. I can't buy it. I can't buy it. And then what ends up happening? You end up buying it, right? And so that white-knuckling is basically when we try to use logic to negotiate with our emotions. And it's very often ineffective. More often than not, it does not work, okay, to have our logic try to negotiate with emotions. That doesn't mean we have to let the emotions run the roost, but trying to be logical with our emotions is not the way to go. The whole idea of having the willpower, we run out of willpower. By the end of the day, the willpower is gone. So does that mean there's no hope? Nope. There is hope. It's not about willpower. It's about skill power. It's the knowing how. And that's what we're going to be talking more about this week. Okay. So we're going to be talking about accurately identifying who is driving the bus at any given moment in time, identifying those emotions that might be running the show, and then having that skill of intentionally choosing who is going to drive the bus without the white knuckling, without the misery of telling yourself you can't, without that sense of deprivation. That's what we're going to be talking about. Okay. So today we talked about how the reason we're stuck is because our human thinking brain sets a goal and plan, but it's our subconscious emotions and automated behaviors that actually control what we do. Now, when our brain gives meaning that something is impossible, that shuts down our effort and that keeps us stuck. So what we're hoping to do today is to awaken your hope so that you're willing to learn the skills. Okay. The elephants, you see that little tiny little stick in the ground? That's actually like legit. As people raise these elephants wherever the elephants live in, Asia and so forth, or in Africa, they put these little stakes in the ground when the elephants are little. And at that point, they can't move. But by the time they're this size, all they would need to do is just pull their leg and that thing would snap. But because they believe that they can't move, that thing holds them down, they stay stuck. And that is what keeps us stuck, is the belief that it's not possible. Okay. So remember, you do not have to stay stuck. And tomorrow we are going to be talking about 3 proven steps to regain control and get unstuck. Okay. So I have the link down below. Again, if you have not registered, if you're joining us on Facebook, we invite you to register so that you can have access to the workbook and you can have access to our group coaching sessions that happen immediately following our event. And there's also a free ebook that you will get. But with that, we invite you to join us back tomorrow so that you can learn those 3 steps to getting unstuck. And for those of you that do have the workbook, we also invite you to go through your circle of life assessment tonight so that you can evaluate where you are and where you want to go. So with that, I'm going to say goodnight to those of you that aren't on Facebook so that we can continue on with our group coaching session.